Ah, such sleepy weather. Look at how sleepy the Golf got. See those pits under its eyes? Aww. It's raining outside, and because I'm made out of sugar, I'm going to start this test inside the new Golf. Look at this. Look, everything is digital now, practically. Digital instrument clusters. Here, not here. There. You've got digital instrument clusters. You've got the big infotainment screen. And why do I say everything is digital? Well, because a lot of the buttons now are also capacitive only, which I'm not really a fan of. So, for example, you've got all this stuff. You can do some gestures, for example, which is pretty cool, but I didn't really find it that useful because most of the stuff you can just go through the menus like this. Otherwise, you still have to use, the touch screen. You have to look off the road to do anything here. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Also, you've got the temperature controls over here, touch, of course, and for the passenger, and you've got the volume control over here. So everything is capacitive now. Also, these buttons for the climate control, none of this is physical, it's capacitive. So once again, you have to look down, and it's just a little bit annoying that you have to go into a touchscreen menu to access your climate controls. Or also the start-stop system, I think, is over here. Actually, I don't know where it is. So if you want to shut it off, you have to go into one of these sub-menus to find it. Anyway, yeah, there it is. There's the start-stop system. Anyway, let's go back here to the digital instrument cluster. It's got a giant bezel of our favorite material, piano black plastic. Apparently, I've been touching these touch controls over here for the lights and changing the lights. But anyway, yeah, you've got this smaller instrument cluster which you can customize. You can also change between various displays, which is okay. And like I said, you can customize the left, you can customize the right, so that's pretty nice. But like I said, I'm not really sure about most of the controls being touch now. The front now has that familiar sloping hood that Volkswagen is using in lots of new models. I don't mind it that much, I'm just not sure about the headlights. They were also trying to make the lower part of the mask a bit more lively. I like the profile a lot more, especially with these alloys. The rear looks good. Volkswagen has decided to make the LED brake lights a little differently. The interior is more futuristic now, thanks in large part due to the two screens hiding in a black bezel. Otherwise, there's the clean Volkswagen's dashboard, and, of course, a lot of black piano plastics.
The rear passengers get their own climate controls in luxurious physical variety, while the front passengers have to do with capacitive substitutes.
The new Golf surprised me in a few ways. Some pretty good, some pretty bad. Usually with cars there's pluses and minuses, but sometimes you get a car which has some pretty big pluses and also some pretty big minuses, and this is that sort of thing. So in order to end on a positive note, so we're all smiling and everything is nice, let's start with the minuses first. And that, I would say, is the assist systems in the car. One of the two things that really bother me. The assist systems, pretty much, it incorporates all of the lane assists and cruise control and stuff like that. Now, I'm a big user of, ooh, this is getting pretty cold. I'm a big user of the limiter in cars. I know a lot of people don't use it. They usually just use radar cruise control for when they're on the highway, but I almost exclusively, almost always use the limiter because I like to set it to, for example, 50 kilometers per hour when I'm going through a city, and I can just not pay attention to the speed then, unless of course the speed limit changes. And that's nice, so I don't have to keep looking at my instruments and, you know, I'm doing other things like driving, not other things. But this, I cannot fathom why it doesn't seem to have a limiter anymore. I tried looking through the manual and there's no button for it. Usually now in Volkswagen cars, well, you don't have a separate button for the speed limiter. You just have the button for the assists, which includes the radar cruise control and the speed limiter, and then you have to go through the little sub-menu and select the speed limiter every time you start the car. It's very annoying, especially if, like me, you almost exclusively use the speed limiter. But, you know, I could live with that. But this does not have a speed limiter at all. So what's the other thing? Well, another assist system is this strange sort of quasi-autopilot thing. It's especially, well, mostly useful when you're on a highway. I really would not recommend using it on normal roads. I will explain in a short while why. But it basically means that you turn on your radar cruise control, and then you can either have the autopilot, of course it's not an autopilot, but it's an assist system, on or off with the use of this button. And what that does is that, well, of course the radar cruise control will keep your distance to the car in front and keep the speed you have set, and the autopilot, quote unquote, will keep you in your lane. Now, it's a little bit like that Nissan ProPilot type thing. But the thing that really bothers me with this system here is that it's much too twitchy. I tried it on a highway. I of course tried it on a normal road as well, like this, and like I said, do not recommend it because you will crash at some point. The car just does not recognize the lines and the twisty roads and such. But on a highway, it is quite very annoying because most of the time, I guess you could say I'm not really used to it, but most of the time I was fighting the system for control because I was just normally going into the left lane to overtake, and all of a sudden it went, whoa, I'm gonna wrestle the steering wheel from you because you did not hit that micron in the center of the road. I want you in the center of the road. What's going on? I mean, if anything, it makes me more nervous to use the system than not. I mean, yeah, a lot of the time it works fine, but when you're overtaking and such, and I don't know, it's just too twitchy. I don't like it. And what's worse is that this system, the lane assist system, is always active. So if I go into my assist systems over here, there we go, in 1,000 submenus, it's active again. Just like auto start stop, every time You start the car up, the lane assist system is on by default. It doesn't matter if you turn it off, and I don't see any settings of turning that off. Maybe it's in the custom profile settings. Maybe, I'll have to check that. But it's extremely annoying because right now it doesn't know where the lanes are, but when it does, it'll let you know because, oh my God, you're not in the center of the lane. I better crash you into that pole over there. Ugh. And then there's the third thing. I know I'm ranting and I'm sorry, but these things really are starting to piss me off because for some reason it is now such a fad to just get rid of all the physical buttons and just put everything on touch. Everything has to be capacitive and sleek looking and nice. And basically what it means is that your light controls, fine, okay, I can live with that. The light controls, how many times, especially in modern cars when everything is automatic pretty much, do you change your lights from low beams and, you know, parking lights and such? Almost never, because everything is automatic, like I said, in modern cars. But climate controls and menu and stuff, why does that have to be touch? The temperature controls, the volume controls, fine, I can sort of live with this little touch bar here, but I do not like the climate controls being in a menu or sometimes even a sub-menu on the screen. So if I want to change something about the climate controls apart from the temperature right now, what I have to do is, of course, look down, find the little touch button for the climate control and make sure I touch that. And let me tell you, there's been quite a few times where I touched it and it didn't actually register. So I had to jam my finger in there. Get up there. There we go. Now I have the climate control menu. And now you have to do everything by touch, including the tiny little bar for the fan control. Very annoying. Why? Why is this necessary? What's wrong with buttons? Look at the new Audi A3 Sportback. That has nice little buttons. It works well. It does well. I think what is going to happen, and I'm really ranting now, but I think what is going to happen, just like the downsizing of engines, suddenly the manufacturers are going to realize, wait a second, our exhausts, our CO2 and everything, these tiny little engines are actually more polluting and thirstier than bigger ones. Let's go back to bigger ones. And I think it's going to be the same here. They're going to say, okay, that might look sleek, but people hate this thing. Let's go back to physical buttons. Please, can we go back to physical buttons, Mom? Please. Okay. Zen. I'm calm now. Those were the negatives. I really hate them. The reason why I ranted so much is because they're not just inconvenient, they are annoying features. In a modern car, I could live with maybe one, but so many of them, it is very, very, very annoying. But let's go to the positives. Because this Golf is, well, it's a Golf, which means it drives pretty well. It rides pretty well. It might be a little bit stiff in the suspension, just a little bit if you're driving over bad roads, but otherwise it rides quite nicely. There's also a pretty good feeling in the steering wheel. I like the design of the steering wheel. I even don't mind the little shifter knob and the center console design. That's quite nice. The seats are fairly comfy. It's reasonably spacious. And the best thing about this one is, of course, that it is a mild hybrid. Over there is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine. So what does that mean? Well, that means that it will have a lower fuel consumption, or at least on paper it will have lower fuel consumption. A lot of the times when we get these mild hybrids, you don't really see much of a difference. However, we are at the positives, so you're probably expecting that this one does have a pretty low fuel consumption. And I will have to say that's an affirmative. This is a 1.5 liter turbo petrol. Oh wow, there's a stork. There's a couple of storks flying up there. I wish you could see that. Wow. Oh, there's 3 of them. Oh, they're just soaring. That's so awesome. Okay, sorry. We're in a car show. I'll leave that to David Attenborough. Anyway, it's a 1.5 liter petrol with 150 horsepower. And I guess there's a tiny little electric engine with a small battery. And that results in, I did 135 kilometers for this run, so I could see how economical I could get. And my average fuel consumption is 4.8 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, you might say that's not extraordinarily impressive. However, what you have to remember is that these 135 kilometers were done, about half of them, if not a little bit more, on the highway. There was a part of it which was 110 and a part of it which was 130 kilometers per hour, and then some twisty roads, and then also some slower city driving and such. 4.8, that's actually for me quite impressive, considering I've got 150 horsepower over there, and you know, I was driving fairly economically, but I think you could get this down still. While I'm recording this, it went from 4.9 to 4.8, and the system is pretty smart. I'll tell you about that. So because it's trying to stay as economical as possible, what will happen is you will be driving along, and then you'll take your foot off the accelerator, and the car will, in most cases, shut off the engine and put the transmission into neutral, and it'll tell you you're just coasting. And let me tell you, it doesn't sound like much, but it actually makes a pretty big difference. Once you get, for example, up to speed, like say 90 kilometers per hour, and then you let your foot down, you will be coasting for quite a bit. And you can actually save a fair bit of fuel that way. So for example, I'm now coming up to, well, 85. I let my foot down, there we go. The engine has shut off. I'm going 83, 82, still going 82, 81. And this is a fairly level road here, 80. So you're very, very slowly losing some speed, 79. So, you know, it'll add up. And it's quite nice. It's very unobtrusive, this system. I usually don't really like start-stop systems, and over here it's actually doing it while you're driving. But here it's very unobtrusive, because these new systems, they start up the engine in a much smoother way. It's much nicer. So I actually don't mind the fact that it shuts off the engine, and then as soon as you put your foot on the accelerator again, it'll put it into gear and it'll start the engine, and it will be mostly imperceptible, which is very nice. There's another system. It can actually shut off 2 of the cylinders, and it'll tell you when it does that. I'm still coasting, by the way, 74 kilometers per hour. It'll shut off 2 of the cylinders, which means that, well, you will use even less fuel when you're driving. Of course, that will only happen when you're very light with your foot, and it will immediately change over to all 4 cylinders when you need more power. But all of that is pretty nice. Now, there's another system which automatically starts braking when it knows, judging by the speed limit and the GPS and navigation, when there's like a corner coming or a lower speed limit and such. But I have to say, I shut that thing off. What's going on with my climate control? Why is it getting so hot? Oh, because the engine is off for so long, of course. Well, there you go. I have the climate control. I've got the air conditioning on, but it's getting humid. But of course, the engine is off. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty good. I don't mind the system at all. I had to shut off the automatic braking, though, because it was doing my head in. Because as soon as I let my foot off the accelerator, and I do like to coast towards red lights and such, it just started braking. It's like, stop using my brakes. I'll do it. So in the end, this is actually a very, very nice car to drive, with some headache-inducing assist systems that you have to fight all the bloody time, and these stupid touch controls that are just gonna make you pull your hair out. But on the other hand, it is pretty frugal. The average fuel consumption has now gone down to 4.7 liters per 100 kilometers. So yeah, I mean, you know, we're now going towards 4.5 liters, which is a pretty good place to be in, I would say, for a car this size and with an engine like this. So do I like it? Yes, I do. Would I recommend it? Only if you can live with these systems. I would implore you, as always, if you're buying a car, don't just watch my videos or videos of others. Always, always, always go and see the car yourself, drive it yourself, and for the love of everything, don't just drive it. Try out these systems you'll have to live with. Ask about them, because this is just horrible. This climate controls on the touchscreen and no limiter and stuff like this. I wouldn't be able to live with that personally, but oh well.
I might have been a bit harsh on the Golf, but the more I think about all these annoyances, the more they annoy me. It will take a lot more advancement before I'll fully trust all these automatic braking and steering systems. The new Golf starts at 20,000 euros, while the top-of-the-line R-Line with a diesel engine, automatic transmission and practically all optional extras will come up to 41,000 euros.